Hello and welcome into the Section 109 podcast. Matthew, we're here to do a little game recap from Studio Breezy with Mix and Toby. Mix is currently trying to lick the peanut butter out of a Kong toy next to Matthew.
Here, buddy. Let's move you a little bit more right there. There you go.
There we go.
Bud.
Got him all set up. Matthew, how are you feeling reviewing this? Give it a second. 1-0 win in case you mistakenly started watching this and you wanted to catch up on the game. I might have spoiled it for you. 1-0 win, Chattanooga Football Club at home against Flower City Union. It was that was my dig at Flower City. Yeah. So let's just start out straight. How you feeling?
I feel decent. And I had to think about that for a second because I wasn't really sure what I was going to say until that exact moment. I feel decent. The clean sheet was really important for me, and maybe more important than the clean sheet was there wasn't a lot of danger in Flower City's play. I mean, there were a couple of moments that were legitimately terrifying.
Yes.
You had the long ball that Jean-Antoine had to come out of the box and use his head for and did not make the best contact with it.
A great block to follow that up from Aiden.
And also great recovery because that play ends with a shot from outside the box that Antoine saves.
Yes.
Cleanly.
I mean, look, Aiden Bowers blocks that shot. Perez is right there. I mean, I guess it could be Perez's leg. I'm pretty sure it's Aiden Bowers. And then Bowers pushes him out wide, keeps him from being able to turn. Jean gets back. It's well played, and it's something we've talked about with personnel as policy.
Yeah.
And we have just better defensive players, better defensive personnel on this team. And you see good defensive players make good defensive plays. And there's a really good defensive play made there. It's not the worst idea from Jean to come out because he needs to get to that ball.
He needs to come out.
And he gets enough on it that they don't get a quick shot, and then he gets back. And yeah, it's something that was very dangerous that ends up not being very dangerous.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that I think could have been dangerous that mostly became not dangerous. And that's really, really good to see because sometimes you don't play your best offensive game, or maybe the more accurate way to phrase this is not our most sharp offensive game. And, you need to make sure that the game stays 0-0 when you haven't scored yet, or it needs to stay 1-0 when you're up a goal.
Sure.
You limit those moments. And so I thought, like, overall, defensively, we limited the number of moments that could have been dangerous and then prevented them from becoming more dangerous most of the time.
Something that we saw in this game that we hadn't really seen this season except for one half is Colin Stripling at right back. How'd you feel like his game went?
I thought I feel even better about getting him 45 minutes in Albion. As now that we've seen the 90 with him at home against Flower City Union, I thought he was better throughout Saturday's match than he was even at Albion. Like very much like it was a rust buster, and this was good. And his ability to play quick balls, to play first time, both offensively and in defensive moments, really helped us take away danger and also create some danger. I mean, he's got the pass that comes in one time to Alex McGrath that McGrath controls and gets a shot off that the keeper makes a good save on. And there were a lot of moments like that where his ability to play quick and to step into midfield in that John Stones role.
What is the John Stones role?
Where you start out as a right back, even though you're kind of a center back, but you end up playing like center defensive midfield a bunch. You'll move in and out, but like he was alongside Richard for large portions of possession, and
some defensively as well.
Yeah, and Rod being a Pep disciple, this is not terribly surprising to see this development happen.
I think the difference you saw with, let's say, Jung Woo So, who started all the games in the preseason and the season up until now, is that while Jung Woo So would be more out wide next to Richard, but out wide, and Colin did that some, he was much more often tucked in next to Richard and then sometimes out wide as well. He just kind of was tucked in more often into the midfield, and then he did some of the same stuff that Jung Woo So did. And
I actually think Colin's tucking in just so much more that I don't think JP was tucked in nearly as much as he had been.
Instead of playing a 2-3 that's like really like symmetrical, let's call it, which we have with Jung Woo-so playing. We've been pretty symmetrical with our three in the middle. Like this game was much more Colin is tucked in and then JP's kind of up and down and also alongside Richard.
I was going to say more of like a 2-3 but offset.
Yeah, this was actually more similar to last year, where Tate came into the midfield some and was kind of like playing with three center backs, where he got forward some, but not a ton. Like Colin also got forward some, but he was very responsible defensively and he made a lot of big defensive plays. And I thought this was, a really, really nice, good thing. And I think he's probably that was our best 11 minus Marcus up top.
Yeah.
I think so, at least so far, based on the personnel we've played so far this year.
So take me through what you were feeling after the match before you watched it again.
So I felt like offensively we were pretty terrible. And then on rewatch, that wasn't the case. We weren't great offensively. This is our worst offensive game of the season. But we in another game, a different referee or a few bounces different or a couple good touches different, it's 2 or 3-0 in the first half.
Yeah.
We were not, I felt like during the game we just were danger adjacent but never really actually dangerous. And I think we were danger adjacent and actually dangerous. We just lacked a little bit of sharpness, or to be fair, Flower City came out with a very good defensive plan and made good defensive plays, but we were just much more dangerous than I realized on the rewatch. And that's why I try to rewatch before these reviews when I can, to try to give myself a little bit of time to be out of the emotional part of it and a little bit more into the trying to be analytical. And yeah, I think this was not as big a step back offensively as it felt like at the end of the game.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. So I've only seen the first half on rewatch. But I do my thoughts on match day were that like, or if the first half was our worst half. So if my opinion of the first half has gone tremendously up, having now watched it, I assume my opinion in the second half will go up a little bit. But also, like, I think it was interesting, and I'm going to go ahead and go through the starting lineup here to talk about this point. No changes, with the exception of Colin Stripling starting for Jung Woo-so, and then Juan Louis getting the start for Marcus Nagelstad.
Marcus out with an injury. We saw him in San Diego after the game with ice on his calf/shin. He caught some studs to the calf/shin, and he is okay. I saw him walking outside of CBC.
He was available. He was available for selection, and I think could have been used if we were down, but I think they were really intent on not, if at all possible.
I wonder if Rod had tried to sub him in before the penalty to take the penalty, if they would have. I'm not suggesting that's what he should have done. Let me be clear, but I wonder if they would have let him. You know, sometimes they do subs in basketball for like specific situations. I wonder if the referee would be like, no, after the penalty.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
Because
I'd be curious how that works.
Because when we can sorry, let's finish starting lineup. I just had a
thought
there.
So those were the only change. Those two were the only changes.
You had Taylor Gray starting up top, which didn't last long.
Yeah. So I want to make a point here, and this is not in case this gets listened to by the front office. This is not a criticism. Like, I don't actually functionally care. Juan Louis was listed as the striker, and Taylor Gray out wide left, and Damian out wide right. And I'd like to think of this as more of the front office, whoever made the graphic, was just anticipating that Juan Louis would spend more time as the striker as opposed to on the left.
Well, the front office was correct.
They were correct.
Except that wasn't the starting lineup.
So they lined up. Taylor Gray was lined up as the main number 9, and Juan Louis was the left winger.
Yep.
That is how we saw them play. That was how we saw like Juan Louis get subbed into for Marcus in the Open Cup match. In Des Moines is how they were situated.
With Juan Louis out left and Taylor up top.
And that lasted for, and I had to write this down before we did this, that lasted about 15 minutes. And I don't think it's a coincidence that was probably our poorest 15 minutes of the game. It just didn't work. And like sometimes things just don't work.
They weren't clicking.
And so like they switched Juan Louis and Taylor. And I thought both players were in better positions for them to succeed. In those respective places. Like Juan Louis would stay in the main channel, in the center channel. Taylor Gray, we know what he can do out wide left. He does it basically every game, and it just from there it flowed better. There was obviously no goals in the first half, but it was better and more dangerous. And upon rewatch, it was way more than just like a couple half chances here and there, and that was basically it. There were some really big opportunities here. I mean, I counted up before we went on air here. I counted up maybe 7 or 8 of like if just sometimes it's a really good play from Flower City, and full credit. Sometimes it's a good save. Sometimes the shot could have been better and it was still a decent save. And sometimes like just the ball, like the spinning ball hitting the turf, just bounces, just a little bit outside of an outstretched foot. And, if one little thing goes differently, and this is how sports work, right? Mm-hmm. But like if one little thing goes differently, you've got like, potentially 3 goals and up to, in like the best case dream world scenario, like 7, like massive chances. So,
well, they weren't all massive chances, but
yeah, but they could have turned into one.
Right.
Like thinking about like the goalkeeper coming out and like Juan Louis on rushing. And number one, if Juan Louis is a step ahead, he's going to take the ball around the goalkeeper and it's a tap in. But the goalkeeper like literally kicks it into Juan Louis. And just the way the angle of his body is, he goes out for a throw in as opposed to bouncing off Juan Louis and heading back towards the goal.
Totally. It's bad luck there on our end and a good play by the Flower City keeper.
Hey, buddy, I'm going to move this for you, okay? Over there.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck with that.
You'll find it, buddy. There it is.
There we go. Kind of like the goalkeeper in Juan Louis.
Yeah, so like it's just one of those things where sometimes the bounces don't just go your way. And I think if I look at this game as a whole, this is the type of game where bounces didn't go our way.
I might have a mic problem there.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Bounces didn't go our way. I don't think the refereeing was very good. And
that's an understatement. And
that's a game like last year. I think that game is ripe for 0-0 or ripe for like a loss. It just like it had that kind of feel to it. And our offense was pretty darn good last year. Our offense is pretty darn good this year. And obviously not having Marcus like mattered and I think affected the game.
For sure.
But one of the things I really like about this team this year and the way that Rod and the staff have put together the squad is that I think this team is just better insulated for situations like this. Like sometimes you're going to have an off night. Sometimes you're not going to be able to be as effective and as sharp. And maybe there's some physical play and the referee's not doing us any favors. And you have to be prepared to ride some of that and to still defend and to still not give up big chances.
And look, some of their big, so they're big,
and you still might get scored on. You still might lose in those games because low percentage chances still sometimes go in. But this team seems like it's better at limiting those types of opportunities and cleaning them up when they do, and they did happen. Like
absolutely.
But there's way more cleanup happening with this group in midfield and the back line, I think, compared to last year. And I think that bodes well going forward.
I agree. Let's talk about the subs real quick and then the goal as well. So the timeline kind of went like this. We played the first half. The first big thing was that switch in the 15th minute, which you've already mentioned, switching the left winger and the striker. And that we genuinely played a lot better after that. But we keep going forward, and at halftime, like you and I talked briefly, like Rod's not the type of guy to make a halftime substitution unless there's like a yellow card in play, which he did in the last game at Albion. And he didn't make. He stuck to form. He tried to let them play it out. But rolling into the 60s, no, sorry, where was the... 67. Oh, yeah, it was 67th minute. There it is. 67th minute, Lenny Lopez comes on for Juan Louis, and the game changes immediately. 4 minutes later, Richard Dixon scores a penalty earned by Taylor Gray. So that's the first big dot on the timeline, which we will come right back to. In the 81st minute, we got a Mutai Muape sub and a Beto Alvarenga sub, meaning Beto came in for Luis, which we have seen a lot. Damian came out, Mumu in for Damian. With Taylor,
a pairing that's been happening as well,
and Taylor staying out wide, and
that was it.
And that was it. And Lenny being up top already. So let's go to the penalty.
Yeah,
Taylor's in the box, takes a good kick to the legs,
crosses over two defenders, whatever it was. One of them kicks him.
I watched it a bunch of times, and I still can't figure out why the defender and the defender standing straight up. I don't know. It's weird, but like he. Like definitely impedes Taylor. Get a penalty, and then Marcus isn't on the field, and we haven't had a penalty without Marcus being on the field in a game that mattered, aka not a friendly, all last year.
Yeah, not once.
Ian Serra was the very first one in the very first game.
Yep.
And he missed and then put it right back in, and Ian Serra's no longer on the team. And we had Chris Bermudez score a couple penalties in the Charlotte game, but that was a game that didn't matter. No offense, Charlotte, or no offense, CFC players. Lots of offense to Charlotte, and so I was wondering who was going to take the penalty. What were you thinking when Richard grabbed the ball?
I legitimately thought that Richard was doing that thing that you sometimes see. Although Taylor Gray did it in the last time there was a penalty.
But Richard did it the time before that.
So like I legitimately thought he was grabbing the ball. He was going to protect the spot. I kind of
take the abuse from the other players.
I kind of figured that I think Flower City and like maybe Michigan is still Michigan, but I think Flower City is the spiritual successor to Michigan Stars, and like they're going to be a little bit shitty. They're going to try to play possession when they can. They're going to try to pack it in when they can. Try to keep the scores low, give themselves a chance on the counter or something. And I was fully expecting like all out shithousery. I mean, like from the goalkeeper, from player. I mean, this is the same goalkeeper that flipped us off during the match. So like,
double birds and grabbed his nuts at the same time.
Yeah,
it was quite the gesture.
So like, I was fully expecting like something, like Emiliano Martinez wannabe ass type player. Like I was expecting something to happen. So I figured Richard was going to hold the ball.
That's what I thought.
Like stiff arm somebody, like beat somebody over the head with it. Preserve the spot, do all the things you have to do. And then turn it over. And frankly, I thought it was going to go to Alex McGrath. Because I think if Richard subs out or is absent for any reason, the armband goes to McGrath because we've seen that happen last year. Mm-hmm. And McGrath would just step up. And it just feels like something that like McGrath or even maybe Luis Garcia Sosa would be tasked to do.
The penalty or the armband?
The penalty.
So I thought
in my wildest dreams, I would not have like expected Richard Dixon to just then put the ball down and stand over the spot like he was going to take it. Like I still thought this was a joke. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then when it became very, very clear that it was not, and this is like the Michael Jordan, no, it's the Charles Barkley, I have to apologize. I was not familiar with your game type thing. Like I almost turned around and was like, did the Sean Russell, like I can't watch this penalty thing. And he steps up and we put the captain puts his team on the back, gets it done. I don't think it was the cleanest penalty on earth, and the goalkeeper guessed the right way, just got a hand on it. Gets
use of fingers on it. But sucks to be 5'8".
Yeah, well, yeah. So, job done. Like it's all that matters. The ball, it's a penalty. Like all that matters is the ball goes in the net.
So I had all the same thoughts as you, all the same thoughts, and then what I started doing was intently watching the other players, trying to guess who it was going to be. And nobody had any body language that said it's going to be me. And at a certain point, I was like, oh, it's going to be Richard. Like, and I looked back and he was setting up for the penalty I figured that out though halfway through that because like none of the other players, like I thought, well, maybe it'd be Taylor. Maybe it'd be Alex. Those are my two kind of thoughts. Neither one had, they were just both if they had been acting, which they weren't, but if they had been acting, it would have been Oscar worthy.
It had to be predetermined. In my opinion.
I don't think so. I asked Richard after the game, and he just said, basically like, no, I take some penalties in practice. Like I'm pretty good at them, and I just went and grabbed the ball, and he didn't say I'm the captain, but that was like the vibe that I kind of got.
I am the captain.
And also, don't forget, Lenny was on the field.
Yeah.
Big striker who definitely took them in college because I've seen his college tape. One of the things that I really liked about that, and I love you, Rich. I hope you don't take a bunch of more penalties. I hope you take no more penalties. I hope that's all Marcus. But if it happens again, the thing I liked is that he didn't let that be a big moment that might, like, home debut, overtake a guy like Lenny, right? And that if potentially it gets saved or he misses, could be a real detriment to his confidence and his season or whatever else. Didn't let that happen. He didn't let it. Obviously, there was not a secondary player who was last year it probably would have been Ian Cerro, like it or not. Ian would have been the guy to step up, I'm sure, if Marcus is not in there. I think there obviously wasn't that second person, so Richard was just like, it's me. And Richard is big enough for that moment. Richard's shoulders are broad enough for that moment.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter because it doesn't matter what happened. All that matters is he put it where they couldn't get to it.
Yeah. That is all that matters.
So as soon as we score that penalty, the game immediately opens up. So let's talk a little bit about what Flower City had done in this game that was very, very smart and something we might see more often. They gave up on the idea of scoring goals, in the sense that they didn't play a super aggressive offensive style or even pressing style that was going to overwhelm us. What they did do was man mark our entire midfield and say and our outside backs and say, center backs, you have to beat us.
Yeah.
And it was evident that the referee didn't help us when Juan Luis kept getting run through the back and he just didn't call it. And so that out ball from the center backs became very difficult and we had trouble moving up the field. And did we still create some stuff? Yeah, we did. But I felt like their plan was really, really good, really, really smart, really, really well organized, and caused us a lot of problems on a day that we weren't as sharp as we needed to be. And we didn't have a Marcus, and until Lenny came in, a person to kind of occupy that central space and be an outlet. And we just weren't clean enough on all our touches. And their defensive plan was very, very good. The man marking, and I think we'll see more teams try to do it. That man marking, make your center backs beat you, is not a bad idea against us. The problem is, in order to do that, I don't think you can play if Diakate is in that game. I'm not sure he can press as well as whoever they had playing up top, whatever midfielder or winger they had playing up top who was very mobile. I think they sacrificed a lot of ability to score.
Look, Diakate was not in town.
Yeah, what do you think happened, Matthew?
I was told a story from.
Hey, let's spread some salacious gossip.
I was told a story. I don't know if I should be telling the story.
Let's just say he may have chosen not to travel.
Yeah, so we'll just say this.
That's the
we'll
story
just say
we heard.
this. The story that we heard is that for whatever reason, he has not been training for the last couple of weeks. Potentially due to his living situation in Rochester. And I'll leave it at that. And
let's see if that fixes it. Sorry, listeners.
And so he hasn't trained in 2 weeks. He did not make the trip down 13 hours in vans, and I don't know I don't know how true, if it's half true or what the deal is there, but he was not there. So I think they lost, and I've never been super high on Diakate in general.
No, he's terrible.
But I think they lost legitimately some good counterattacking threat and someone who does have a proven ability to score goals in this league.
Yeah, he was a second leading scorer far behind, but second leading scorer for Albion.
So I think if they were able to get a good counterattack opportunity, he's the guy you want to center the ball to, or ask him to beat one player and score. And I think without him, Flower City are kind of giving up that goal threat. And in doing so, I think it allowed them to set up their defense in such a way that they could do all the running necessary, not really pressing running, but do all the running in midfield necessarily. Because they basically played a 0-4-6. Or, I'm sorry. Yeah, a 4-6-0.
Right, with no striker, 6 midfielders running around, and not pressing the center backs so much. But as soon as that pass came out of the center backs, they were on whoever that was, and they were man-marking that player. So look, it was pretty effective. They marked Richard Dixon out of the game offensively for most of the game because they had him either single or double.
That was the striker. Not a striker, but the guy who was occupying essentially that slot was just on Richard.
And I think you saw that both Luis and Alex had a quieter game than they normally do. And that's it. That's to their credit, the credit of Flower City, that they made sure that the pressure in the midfield was good, and like credit to them.
This is what I expected a lot more teams to do this year.
This is what I expect a lot more teams to do.
Well, I mean, like even early on, we talked about like would teams come out and press us or not, and I, we saw Huntsville come out and press us, and I don't think anyone in NISA is at like that kind of Huntsville level.
No.
So, I don't think teams are going to come out and press us directly. I figured they were going to do more of like trying to set up like this. And because what you do is you essentially force the center backs, you give them a little time, and you saw the center backs at times would take an extra dribble or two into midfield to try to like force something to overload or to fall apart. And then they would fire a ball sometimes into Damian, sometimes into Juan Luis, sometimes into Taylor. And then when Lenny came in.
And we were much better coming out of that press once Lenny came in.
Right, yes. But Toby,
he wants to play.
He's having fun.
He wants to play.
So you had the guys, they were playing those balls in, and there wasn't a lot because the goalkeeper was full on sweeper keeper style, a lot like you see Tatenda Bakruvo play for Michigan Stars. The over the top ball wasn't necessarily always there either, because they were more of a mid block than a high block. So the space required to play over the top wasn't there.
And the man marking made it so the center backs had time, but they didn't have anybody to pass it to.
Yeah.
And as soon as Alex McGrath would receive a pass, or Luis Garcia Sosa would receive a pass, or Richard, or Colin even, or JP,
they were constantly nipping at the ankles.
They had somebody already on them immediately, like on them when they were receiving the pass. So that it was just a simple recycle back. And then once Flower City got it, they weren't as good at it as we are, but they tried defensive possession.
Yes.
And they would keep the ball for 10 or 15 seconds. Eventually, our press would force them to go long, usually, but they sometimes were able to play out of it a little bit. Look, it was a good game plan. It was smart. And it didn't work to beat us. And it wasn't going to work to beat us on the field like with a meritocracy, right? With merit.
But
it caused us problems.
This is not last year's Flower City. And I think I've said it multiple times on this podcast that like they were going to be better. And I think they clearly were better.
They were a lot better.
And like it's a decent game plan. I think at times you see them playing a little bit like almost copycatting Rod, not really with like the kind of quality. There's the penalty on our rewatch there. Or no, it wasn't called actually. Oh, penalty might have been. I need to see the penalty again because that's almost a carbon copy of Taylor like going through two defenders and then falling down and not getting a call. I wonder if the referee was regretting his choice on that first one. Anyway, you see them trying to play a little bit like how we play, and obviously like we're a better team than Flower City. I think that's not going to be controversial of a statement. And I wonder like if they've set up in this kind of way to like adjust a little bit to us, play with a little bit more mid block, a little bit more man marking or whatever system. And then against other teams, and I'm going to throw out the Maryland game they played because it was 40-mile-an-hour gust or something crazy like that. Their only other game in the league this year. But I'll be curious if they
had a really long time to prepare for this game.
They did. They haven't played,
you saw that.
They haven't played since the Open Cup. I think you might see them continue to play try to play on the ground with possession, and you even press some teams with a little bit more athleticism. Or the teams that aren't quite as good. Think like a Club de Leon right now. And I don't know. They're going to be interesting to watch. I don't know if this Diakate thing is real at all, and you just don't see him play much or see him leave for whatever reason. Like, I don't know where the goals are going to come from necessarily. Like Stephen Elias, good player. Luke Ferreira.
Who?
Luke Ferrari.
There we go.
You would hope that like he can provide some offense, but like this is, they've played 2 games now in NISA, one against us, one against Maryland. They haven't scored yet. Now, are us and Maryland the 2 better teams in the league at this point in time? I also don't know. I mean, I assume we are.
Well,
but like Maryland's beaten Flower City, and they've beaten Club de Leon at this point, who are struggling. So I don't know. This league is hard to figure out. I mean, like, Albion and LA Force played last night in LA, and you could argue Albion was probably the better team, and that game ends in a 1-1 draw. right after, a week after we kicked the ever living shit out of them.
Yeah.
So like, did Albion grow up a little bit? Maybe. Were they a little bit more careful, or they just didn't get punished? Like, is LA a little bit inept? I don't know. It'd be interesting to watch.
Got about 10 minutes left. Actually, almost exactly 10 minutes left. We hit our 40-minute limit. 3 key takeaways. I'll start with one of mine. Long ball set pieces give us a lot of unpredictability. So something that actually happened in this game is that we took a set piece short, and they were obviously preparing for this game for several weeks because they had a player standing right behind, and as soon as Luis took a little touch and then Alex took one touch, the player came in and from behind what Alex didn't see him and took the ball away. So they had a lot of, they were prepared for that. But we are just genuinely going long on set pieces some, whether it's a free kick or that's a cross or a corner that sometimes we were going short all the time.
There's a lot more variance here, and I think it makes us better and more unpredictable.
And the reason I believe we're doing that right now is for the unpredictability factor. And we're a little bit bigger with Anatoly, but it's just an unpredictability factor, and it's good, and it's added some danger, and I love it. I love the unpredictability there. We were better to rewatch. I already said this, offensively than I remembered, which is good. And that was the second point. And then I've already talked about number 3 here. Flower City came with a very good defensive game plan, and they were lucky that it worked as long as it did.
Yeah.
But it did work for the majority of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think teams are going to have to have good game plans like that and try to slow us down and try to prevent us from getting as many opportunities as we can create. And
I bet the mailman's here.
And we still also had some of our chances, and if we put one of those away, we're off to the races probably. But because we didn't, we allowed them to hang around a little bit, and teams are going to have to probably get a little lucky to get results on us, right? This season, and that's also a legitimate game. You can you want to take away everything you possibly can, and then you're still going to need to rely on luck at times.
Sure,
and that's what happens when you are probably a mid-table team playing probably the best team in the league. That's normal. That's a legitimately normal game plan. Absolutely.
So give me your 3, Matthew.
Number 1, no Marcus, no problem. Maybe not.
I think this was actually the most predictable thing, because if you don't have the golden boot and golden ball winner from last year, no matter how talented your team is, which the teams were more talented than any other team in the league right now, it's going to be a big hole.
It still matters. Turns out it still matters.
Even if you're more talented than the team you're playing, it's still a big hole.
There's a reason why he's a striker. There's a reason why he's able to occupy. He's not this big 6'5",
he's not Lenny.
But he's not this huge player that can hold the ball up super well. But he does. You played a feat with Marcus, and he can hold the ball up. He can do some stuff.
He can play it out wide,
little dinks, or little turn and find the big ball out wide. There's some, and he maybe more important. And we talked about this about the Taylor and Juan Luis switch. He occupies that center channel, and Lenny did a great job of that when Lenny came in. And I think it mattered a lot for not only the earning the penalty and setting us up, but we were also then dangerous both on the break and in build up.
Yes.
In the last 20 minutes of the game. Having your main 9 matters.
Also, positioning of the 9 matters. And
because this team needs balance to allow space. And
Damian plays 2 balls across the box that Marcus gets a tap in on one of them.
Yeah.
Because Juan Luis one step away, and I just believe that Marcus makes that run reads it a little earlier. And there's another Taylor one that maybe he doesn't get to, but also same idea, maybe he does get to. And it just shows you that when the best player in the league last year is out, you're not going to be quite as good.
It does matter. It does.
Yeah.
My second one is expect more like this and less like Albion. I think more teams are going to try to pack us in and play like this, and
keep us off the board and hope they get one.
Yeah, I think everybody, unless teams are kind of, and this may sound crazy, but committed to, hoping just to steal one, but want to play their game. You know how Rod wants to play his game no matter what?
Yes.
If you play us 2 times and you play everybody else 22 times in the league, there is an argument for just like kind of letting the chips fall where they may against us in hopes of like getting better at doing your thing against everybody else.
That takes a hell of a lot of discipline, though.
It takes a hell of a lot of discipline.
And Rod's the only one with that discipline.
And I don't know if anyone else really does.
Yep.
But like, I would expect more teams to try to sit in and like pack it in and try to just like keep us frustrated and keep us whatever and hope the referee, helps them out a little bit. I imagine that's where this is going to go. And you're going to see less of Albion, which had like almost dogmatic commitment to playing out of the back and like playing the kids and not even like remembering to like settle things in like more compact kind of ways.
I also just think they are bad. You're giving a lot of.
Ooh, yeah, that's a penalty. Yeah, I just saw it on the screen right now. That's a pen. Like,
yeah.
I mean, like there's an outstretched leg.
It's a pen. It's a pen. Your third one here: clean sheets win games and championships.
Yeah, this is like maybe the Captain Obvious one of any keys.
I think number one was Captain Obvious. No Marcus. No
but
problem.
Like,
maybe not.
We mentioned this earlier, like the defensive performance to be able to limit danger, to clean up danger where it does exist, to reduce the amount of times, period, but also the amount of like dangerous times that exist that you can get scored on, is a strength for this team compared to last year.
Yeah, we're just limiting big chances, and we're making smaller chances not become big chances.
And in doing so, we are keeping danger at bay so that the 0-0 games stay 0-0 and our 1-0 lead stays 1-0. That will like we are preventing goals from being scored while maintaining a balanced and good offense, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. That will help us. Clean sheets help us win games. You can't lose if you have a clean sheet, right? And ultimately, defense wins championships. Offense sells tickets, defense wins championships, that whole bullshit stuff.
Actually, in the basketball parlance, the right one is offense fills seats, defense wins games, rebounds wins championships.
Okay, that's tall person in high school talking right there. So Richard's stepping up right now. Bang. Yeah, like I just think that the defensive ability is going to allow us just more time for our offense to like find the gaps, find the rhythm, find the goals. And, maybe we get shut out a game, here or there. But also in like you think back to the Michigan Stars game in the playoffs and, we have them on the weekend as well that we can talk about later. But if you think back to the Michigan Stars game, like our offense made a couple of chances, not big ones, but like had a couple chances, like maybe could have put that game, could have gotten a lead and turned that game completely differently. But the defense gave up a couple of important plays. They get the set piece. They score the set piece. You need that defense to prevent that set piece from occurring, number one, prevent them from scoring, number two, to allow more time for your offense to finally like find the gap and get it done. And like that's like the offense is better, yes, I think, in terms of balance, in terms of quality, but like that's that defense that's going to help us, I think, at the end of the season, be the number one team in the league and advance in a playoff scenario and hopefully win a championship.
Love it. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds, Matthew, to give us a preview for the Open Cup on Wednesday.
So number one, you need to go there if at all possible. And if you can't get to Tuscaloosa, go to CBC to join our watch party.
But also, like, go to Tuscaloosa.
Do everything you can to get to Tuscaloosa. Like, I don't think there are going to be a ton of Birmingham fans there. I would love for us to outnumber their fans. It's a road game for both teams at this point. The second thing is Birmingham are good. We played them in the preseason. We won that game 1-0. Don't put a lot of stock into that. Be like, oh, like this might be tight. Birmingham is good. Like it will be, by all accounts, it will be a cup set for us to win this game.
Yes.
That doesn't mean it's not possible. Memphis, I mean, as you might recall, Memphis finished like second in the East last year.
And we beat the shit out of them.
Yep. And we also got an early goal and it helped, and the game state helped a lot of things. But like we've got the quality to do some really, really good things. And Birmingham also has quality to do some really, really good things. And like, if we lose this game, it wouldn't shock me for Birmingham to go cup set an MLS team, for example, in the next round. But also, get to Tuscaloosa, try to help us get over the line. And who knows, maybe we can host an MLS team in Findlay Stadium in the 4th round.
Hell yeah. I love that. Well, Matthew, thank you for showing up this morning, watching the first half with me, and reviewing this game and recapping this game from Studio Breezy with Toby, Mix, Bobble Juan, Matthew, and myself. The last thing I will say is it's a busy stretch here.
Yeah.
Get out to the games you can get and make sure the boys feel your presence. There'll be watch parties at CBC for the next 2 games. Like I said, get to Tuscaloosa.
And then we'll be back at home on May 6th.
And we'll be back at home on May 6th. See you guys there.